I am Evelyn, 39 years old, a urologist by trade, and my life is a tapestry of contradictions, woven with threads of duty, desire, and despair. Each day, I step into the sterile, fluorescent-lit rooms of my clinic, where I am calm, precise, a beacon of professionalism for patients who entrust me with their most intimate fears. My hands are steady as I diagnose, treat, and reassure, but beneath the surface, I am unraveling. My world outside these walls is a labyrinth of emotions I can neither escape nor fully understand, and at its center are two men, my husband, Oliver, whose love has turned to poison, and my son, Jordan, who is the only light in my darkening existence. Oliver is 42, an architect whose success is matched only by his insecurity. Our marriage, once a partnership of shared dreams, has eroded into a battlefield of suspicion and silence. He is consumed by jealousy, convinced that my job, my daily proximity to men, to their bodies, to their vulnerabilities, means I am unfaithful. "Who is it today, Evelyn?" he'll ask, his voice a low growl, his eyes searching mine for a confession I'll never give. Another late appointment? Another emergency? His accusations are relentless, a drumbeat that follows me home from the clinic. I used to fight back, to plead my innocence, to beg him to trust me, but the words dried up long ago. Now, I let his venom slide over me, a cold rain I've learned to endure. There's no point in arguing. He doesn't hear me, doesn't see me, not anymore. Our home is a hollow shell, a place where we coexist but do not connect. We share a bed, but it's a chasm. Our bodies turned away from each other, the space between us filled with unspoken resentments. We haven't touched, not with love, not with desire, in years. The last time I reached for him, my hand tentative, hopeful, he recoiled as if I'd burned him. "What's the point?" he muttered, and I felt something inside me break. I don't know why we stay together. Habit, perhaps, or the fear of what comes after. Or maybe it's Jordan, our son, the one fragile thread that still binds us, though even that feels like it's fraying. Jordan is 17, and he is everything to me. My light, my anchor, my reason to keep breathing when the weight of my life threatens to crush me. He's tall, like his father, with dark curls that fall into his eyes and a smile that could thaw the coldest heart. But it's his energy that captivates me, vibrant, unapologetic, a spark of life in a world that feels increasingly gray. He's on the cusp of manhood, teetering between the boy who used to cling to my hand and the young man who's beginning to carve his own path. I see myself in him sometimes, in the way he observes the world with quiet intensity, in the way he feels things so deeply but hides it behind a crooked grin. Jordan and I have always been close, closer than most mothers and sons, I think. When he was little, he'd crawl into my lap after a long day, his small body warm against mine, and tell me about his dreams, his fears, his endless questions about the universe. I'd listen, stroking his hair, marveling at how someone so small could hold so much wonder. As he grew older, our bond deepened, evolving into something rarer, more profound. We'd talk for hours, about school, about his friends, about the stars and the mysteries they hold. He'd tease me about my doctor voice, the calm, measured tone I use with patients, and I'd laugh, feeling lighter than I ever did with Oliver. But 6 months ago, everything changed. It was a Thursday late in the afternoon, and I was alone in the clinic, the receptionist gone, the building quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. I was reviewing charts, my mind half on the paperwork, half on the argument Oliver and I had had that morning, when Jordan walked in. I hadn't expected him. He'd never come to my office before, not like this, unannounced. He looked nervous, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, his shoulders hunched. "Mom," he said, his voice quieter than usual, "I need to talk to you. It's kind of personal." My heart lurched. Was he sick? Hurt? But I pushed the panic down, slipping into my doctor mode, the one that keeps me steady no matter what. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, gesturing to the exam room. "What's going on?" He hesitated, his eyes flickering with something I couldn't quite read. Embarrassment, maybe, or fear. Then he told me. It was a urological issue. Nothing life-threatening, but sensitive. The kind of thing a teenage boy would dread discussing with anyone, let alone his mother. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral, though my pulse was racing. Okay, I said. I'll take a look. It's just you and me here, Jordan. You don't have to be embarrassed. The examination was clinical, professional. I moved through the steps as I would with any patient, my hands steady, my voice calm. But it was different. It was Jordan, my son, my heart, and the intimacy of the moment, the trust he placed in me, shifted something inside me. I felt it even then, a warmth spreading through me, a connection that went beyond mother and son, beyond doctor and patient. It scared me, but it also thrilled me, like standing at the edge of a cliff and feeling the wind pull you forward. Afterward, he thanked me, his voice soft, and when he hugged me, it lingered just a moment too long. His arms were strong, his warmth seeping into me, and for a fleeting second, I didn't want to let go. I told myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things, but in the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling. Jordan started seeking me out more often. He'd come home from school and sit with me in the kitchen, asking about my day, his eyes bright with curiosity. He'd brush against me as we passed in the hallway, his touch fleeting but deliberate. And I let it happen. I welcomed it. His presence was like a spark in the darkness of my life, and I couldn't bring myself to push him away. Our conversations grew deeper, more personal. He'd ask me about my work, about the patients I saw, about what it was like to hold someone's fears in your hands. I'd tell him things I'd never told anyone, not even Oliver. How the weight of my job sometimes crushed me, how I felt like I was drowning in Oliver's jealousy, how Jordan was the only thing keeping me sane. He'd listen, really listen, and when he looked at me, I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. His gaze was intense, unguarded, and it stirred something in me I didn't want to name. It wasn't long before I noticed the change in myself. I started dressing differently, choosing clothes that hugged my figure, noticing the way Jordan's eyes lingered. I'd catch myself smiling when he walked into a room, my heart lifting at the sound of his voice. I told myself it was innocent, that I was just a mother proud of her son. But deep down, I knew better. The line between us was blurring, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it. Oliver noticed, of course. He's always been perceptive, in his own twisted way. You're different, he said one night, his eyes cold as he watched me across the dinner table. You're glowing. Who is it, Evelyn? Who's got you smiling like that? I laughed it off, told him he was being ridiculous, but my stomach twisted with guilt. Not because of Oliver's accusations, but because of the truth I was hiding. There was someone who made my heart race, someone who filled the emptiness inside me. But it wasn't a lover, not in the way Oliver imagined. It was Jordan. The closer Jordan and I grew, the harder it became to hide. We'd steal moments together. Long talks in the car, quiet evenings watching movies, our shoulders brushing as we sat on the couch. I'd catch him watching me sometimes, his gaze intense, and I'd feel a flush creep up my neck. I knew it was wrong, knew we were crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed, but I couldn't stop. He was my light, my salvation, and I was too weak to let him go. The tension with Oliver escalated. His suspicions grew sharper, his questions more pointed. You're hiding something, he'd say, his voice thick with accusation. I see the way you look, Evelyn. You're not yourself. I'd deny it, my words mechanical, but each confrontation left me more shaken. He was wrong about the affair he imagined, but he was right that something had changed. Jordan had become my confidant, my refuge, and the boundaries between us were dissolving. One evening, after another argument with Oliver, I found Jordan in his room, sprawled on his bed, headphones on, lost in his music. I knocked softly, and he pulled the headphones off, his face lighting up when he saw me. Hey, Mom, he said, sitting up. You okay? I wasn't. I was exhausted, frayed, but seeing him steadied me. I sat on the edge of his bed, and we talked about nothing, about everything. He told me about a book he was reading, a sci-fi novel about parallel universes, and I listened, letting his voice wash over me. At some point, he reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine, and I didn't pull away. We sat like that for a long time, the world outside his room fading away, until I realized how late it was. "I should go," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. He looked at me, his eyes searching, and for a moment, I thought he might say something, might name the thing we were both avoiding. But he just nodded, squeezing my hand before letting go. "Night, Mom," he said, and I left his room, my heart pounding. The next day, Oliver confronted me again. It was worse this time, his voice shaking with rage. "I know there's someone else," he spat. "You think I'm blind? You're sneaking around, Evelyn, and I'm going to find out who it is." I stood there, silent, my mind racing. He was wrong, but he was also right. There was someone else, someone who consumed my thoughts, someone I couldn't bear to lose. But how could I explain that it was our son? How could I make him understand something I barely understood myself? The guilt is a constant companion now, a shadow that follows me everywhere. I know what Jordan and I are doing is wrong, that the closeness we've cultivated is dangerous, unnatural. But when I'm with him, when he smiles at me, when he touches my hand or leans against me, I feel alive in a way I haven't in years. He's my son, but he's also the only person who sees me, who makes me feel like I matter. And that terrifies me as much as it thrills me. Last night, Jordan came to me again. It was late, the house dark, Oliver asleep or pretending to be. I was in the living room, staring at a book I wasn't reading, when Jordan appeared in the doorway. "Can't sleep," he said, his voice soft. He sat beside me on the couch, closer than he needed to, and we talked, our voices low, the air between us charged with something unspoken. At one point, he rested his head on my shoulder, and I froze, my breath catching. "I love you, Mom," he murmured, and the words were simple, innocent, but they carried a weight that made my chest ache. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it, more than I should. We sat there for a long time, the silence heavy with possibilities we couldn't acknowledge. When he finally went to bed, I stayed on the couch, staring into the darkness, wondering how we'd gotten here, wondering where this would end. I don't know what comes next. I'm terrified of Oliver, of the truth, of what Jordan and I are becoming. I know I should stop this, should draw a line, should be the mother he needs instead of whatever I am now. But when I think of pulling away, of losing the light he brings to my life, I feel like I'm suffocating. He's my everything, my reason to keep going, and no matter what happens, I know I'll never let him go. The weeks following that night on the couch were a fragile balancing act, each day a struggle to hold onto the mother I was supposed to be while the pull toward Jordan grew stronger. His 18th birthday loomed, a marker of his transition into adulthood that felt like both a celebration and a reckoning. I wanted to honor him, to give him the joy he deserved, but every plan I made was shadowed by the unspoken tension between us. Oliver's presence in the house was a constant reminder of the world outside our bond, his suspicions a low hum that never quite faded. Yet it was Jordan, his smile, his voice, his quiet strength, that consumed me, anchoring me even as it threatened to pull me under. I decided on a small birthday celebration, just the three of us, though the thought of Oliver's brooding presence made my stomach twist. I cooked Jordan's favorite meal, roast chicken with rosemary, the scent filling the house with a warmth that felt like a memory of better days. I set the table with care, placing a small gift beside Jordan's plate, a leather-bound journal, its pages blank, a space for the dreams I knew he'd chase. When he walked into the dining room, his eyes lit up, and for a moment, it was just us, the weight of the past months falling away. "Mom, this is amazing," he said, his voice soft but genuine, and the way he looked at me, open, unguarded, made my heart ache. Oliver muttered a gruff happy birthday, his eyes flicking between us, but he stayed quiet, sipping his wine, his silence louder than any accusation. Dinner was a delicate dance. Jordan filled the silence with stories about school, his plans for college, the stars he still loved to map in his mind. I listened, hanging on his every word, marveling at the man he was becoming. But beneath the surface, I felt the current between us, the way our glances lingered, the way his hand brushed mine when he passed me the bread. Each touch was a spark, innocent to anyone else but electric to me. I caught Oliver watching, his jaw tight, and I forced a smile, desperate to keep the moment from fracturing. After dinner, Oliver retreated to his study, leaving Jordan and me to clean up. The kitchen was quiet, the clink of dishes a soft rhythm as we worked side by side. He was close, his arm grazing mine as he handed me a plate, and I felt the familiar jolt, the warmth that spread through me at his nearness. I wanted to step away, to put distance between us, but my body betrayed me, leaning into the moment. "Thanks for tonight," Jordan said, his voice low, his eyes meeting mine. "It means a lot. You always make things special." I swallowed, my throat tight. "I'd do anything for you," I said, and the words felt too heavy, too true. He smiled, a slow, crooked grin, and for a moment, I thought he might say something more, might name the thing we were both circling. But he just nodded, turning back to the sink, and I exhaled, relief and regret warring inside me. That night, I lay awake, the house silent except for Oliver's faint snores. My mind replayed the evening, Jordan's smile, the way his presence filled the empty spaces in me. I knew I was losing myself in him, that the love I felt, pure, fierce, was twisting into something dangerous. He was my son, my everything, but he was also the one person who saw me, who made me feel alive. The guilt was a constant weight, but so was the longing, and I didn't know how to untangle them. The next morning, Jordan found me in the living room, a book open in my lap, unread. He sat across from me, his expression hesitant. "Mom," he said, "can we talk?" My heart lurched, but I nodded, setting the book aside. "Of course." He leaned forward, his hands clasped, his eyes searching mine. "I know things have been weird lately, between us, and I don't want to mess this up. You're the most important person in my life." His words hit me like a wave, and I felt tears prick my eyes. "You're the most important person in mine," I said, my voice trembling. "But Jordan, we've been too close, in ways we shouldn't be." He looked down, his jaw tight, and I saw the struggle in him, the same one I carried. "I know," he said quietly. "I feel it too, but I don't know how to stop. You're my safe place, Mom. When everything else is messed up, you're the one thing that makes sense." I reached for his hand, unable to stop myself, my fingers curling around his. "You'll always have me," I said. "But we have to be careful. We have to be just mother and son." He nodded, his thumb brushing over my knuckles, a gesture that sent a shiver through me. "I'll try," he said, his voice breaking. "I don't want to hurt you." The honesty in his words broke something in me, and I pulled him into a hug, holding him tightly, as if I could anchor us both. His arms wrapped around me, strong and warm, and for a moment, I let myself feel the love between us, pure and untainted. But I knew we couldn't stay there, that we had to let go. The days that followed were a quiet battle. We kept our distance, careful not to linger in each other's space, but the connection was still there, a thread that couldn't be severed. I threw myself into work, letting the clinic's routine numb the ache. Jordan focused on his studies, his future, the college applications that would soon take him away. But there were moments, a shared glance, a fleeting smile, that reminded me how fragile our boundaries were. One afternoon, Jordan came home with news. He'd been accepted to a university halfway across the country, a program in astrophysics that had been his dream since he was a boy. His face was alight with pride, but his eyes held a flicker of sadness. "It's really happening," he said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "I'm going." I smiled, though my chest ached. "I'm so proud of you," I said. "You're going to do amazing things." He reached for my hand, his touch gentle. "I'm gonna miss you, Mom." "I'll miss you too," I said, my voice thick. "But this is your time, Jordan. You need to go live your life." He nodded, his fingers tightening around mine. "I'll always come back to you," he said, and the words were a promise, a lifeline. The weeks before he left were bittersweet. We were careful, keeping our interactions light, but the love between us was unshakable. I helped him pack, folding his clothes, tucking away the pieces of his life. Each task was a small farewell, a step toward a future where we could be what we were meant to be. On the day of his departure, I drove him to the airport, the silence between us heavy but warm. At the gate, he turned to me, his eyes bright. "I love you, Mom," he said, his voice steady. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it, purely, fiercely. He hugged me, a quick, tight embrace, and then he was gone, his figure disappearing into the crowd. Back home, the house was too quiet, Jordan's absence a void I felt in my bones. But there was also a strange peace, a sense that we'd stepped back from the edge. I began to rebuild, seeking therapy to untangle the guilt, talking to Oliver, not about Jordan but about us, about the marriage we might still save. It was slow, uncertain, but it was a start. Jordan called often, his voice bright with stories of his new life. Each conversation was a reminder of the boy he'd been and the man he was becoming. Our love was still there, deep and true, but it was settling into something right, something safe. One night, I found a note he'd left in his room, tucked inside a book. "You're my home, Mom. Always." I held it, tears falling, and knew that no matter what, we'd found our way back to each other. Not as we were, but as we should be. Jordan was my son, my light, and that love would carry us forward, unbroken, forever.